This is an example of notifications and alerts that you might see when you are using or utilizing Hangouts on Air events. Either you're coming to visit them as a viewer, or you are a host and you are running the show. So these are the types of alerts and notifications you're going to see, and we're going to cover a lot more detail about that in a moment, but I was just sort of putting this up here to give everybody an idea of what's going on, why are we here, what are we talking about. So now, before we get further on, I'm going to introduce some of the people that are with me. In fact, let me just turn off screen share for a second. We've done a lot of testing, probably 17, 18 weeks worth of testing to try to figure out what goes on when you send out a Hangout on Air, or when you make a Hangout on Air that's in an event and you alert people about it. You want people to know it's happening so they can come and see it. What are the types of notifications and alerts that you get, and how can you control that, was the object of our study. So everyone here in the film strip with me has been part of that for the last 17 weeks or so. And what we'd like to do is I'd like to introduce them, let them say a little about what they do, and then we're going to get into the actual training where we're going to explain and basically show you what we've learned. And then after that training part is over, we're going to go into a Q&A time where everybody in the film strip can bring up their perspectives of what we just talked about, as well as bring in your comments right live from the stream if you found the new place to add comments. And then we'll bring them right onto the screen using the comment tracker tool. So let's start out by, I'm going to just choose in the order that I see them here. I'm going to highlight the person, and this is Susan. Susan, would you say hello, please?
Good morning, everyone. Susan Finch here. Susan Finch Solutions.
Great. You want to say a little more about what you do, or?
My favorite thing to do, graphics and training manuals and big old strategic marketing plans.
Excellent. And then Michael Daniels, you're next.
Hey, Michael Daniels. Try and help Ronnie whenever I can inside the Hangout Mastery. You guys probably see me, especially if you're new people and stuff like that. I try to participate as much as I can, helping him out because he's helped me so much. And we have a community, user to user, where we do a lot of stuff where we it's a free thing that we just do outside of anybody just helping people with Hangouts and stuff. But other than that, that's pretty much what I do.
Great. John, you're on.
Hello, this is John Moore here. I've Sonic Spider. Sonic Spider. My wife just trying to tell me something right.
Timing
Sonic
is
Spider here. We do web development, and I fix and develop e-commerce solutions for people. And we have a show once a month where we try to help small businesses, and that's our thing, is small businesses. So.
Fantastic.
That's what we do.
Thank you. And I'm going to highlight just for a moment Heather Kraafter. She is feeling a little under the weather, so she's not going to be talking right now, but there she is, smiling and waving. Thank you. And Debbie Davis.
Hi, Debbie Davis, 3D Communications. I'm a communications strategist and project manager, and help you get the right messages to the right people using the right channels.
Fantastic. And Andrew Hatchett.
Hi, I'm Andy Hatchett. I'm retired, so I live online all day long, and Michael and I started the user community, and that's basically where I live now.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so just as a reminder, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the training part where we talk about what we've learned about Hangout on Air event alerts. And it's not just Hangout on Air events, but that's normally what most of us need to know this for. It's technically events and how they add alerts and notifications to your life. So without further ado, I'm going to hopefully, if the Hangout's working right, do a screen share. And then not only do a screen share, try to present it to everyone so that the film strip should have just gone away, and now we're looking at a bigger picture of the slide. So we're going to jump through this stuff relatively quickly. So here we go. So when you first are seeing the option to get to events, especially Hangout on Air events, you're going to see the box like that's highlighted with the yellow square or real yellow rectangle, where it talks about, are you going to go watch? Are you going to watch? You can say yes, maybe, or no, or not respond at all. Those are all 4 different types of RSVP actions or responses. And the choice, depending on what you do, will affect the notifications and the alerts that you're going to see. We've already posted on this, but I'm trying to bring this all together in one spot so it's easy for everybody to find. What we've got here is a picture of your calendar. If you're using Google Calendar, there are some settings that you're going to really want to change to affect what you see that shows up on your calendar. So if you look at the big number 1 on the top left area, we've got the settings cog within the Google Calendar. When you click on that, the drop-down menu shows you the word settings, where the number 2 is. Choose that, and then scroll to the area where you can see those next two, number 3 and 4. Number 3 and 4 talks about the events that you've declined, and number 4 talks about automatically adding invitations to your calendar. Google, in all their infinite wisdom, a little sarcasm here, has decided to make the defaults be yes for both 3 and 4, and I'm encouraging you to say no for both 3 and 4, because most likely you don't really want the events that you're not going to be going to showing up on your calendar. So that's number 3. And also most likely you don't want other invitations to events to just automatically show up in your calendar unless you have responded to them, which is again the option for number 4, saying no. And once you've done that, you've changed both of those to be no, then you save your changes and then things will be a little less spammy for you on your calendar. The next slide is talking about another place where you can adjust settings, and we've learned is there's a lot of places that when you change your settings will affect how you see or whether you see these notifications. This is on the Google Plus desktop browser. You go on the left side where the big number 1 is, choose settings, and then scroll down where the big number 2 is to the area that says receive notifications. And if you change your settings there, down where number 3 is around the events specific areas, you can decide whether you want to get emails about those particular activities going on with events, or under the phone column whether you want to have things going to your mobile device. Okay, so those are some settings you're going to want to maybe look into if you're concerned about getting too many emails, or you want to make sure you get the emails about events. Now let's get into the details of what we had up on screen. In the upper portion where the yellow circle and arrow is, that's our notification drop-down on the desktop version, and it looks very similar on the mobile version. Your notifications, once you open it up, will show you a bunch of different options or notifications for events. And what I've done is I've captured a bunch all together here. And the top 2 are dealing with invitations to events. Okay, you see a little calendar icon in the upper right of those. Then the third or fourth one down where it says John Moore and 3 others, if you are a host of the Hangout on Air event, you're going to see these because you're the host and people that are responding yes or maybe or whatever, it's going to show you what those options are or what those notifications are. Then below that, where we're showing pictures of Mia Voss, these 2, those are different activities that happen inside an event, like if someone's added a picture, a photo, or if someone's else adding comments and things like that, or they're saying yes, they're coming. The different kind of things that happen in events, you will get notified. And we'll see when and how you can control that in a moment. The big one that's with the blue call out with the big red area of that calendar icon, this is an automated alert to events, which tends to happen right before the event's going live or 24 hours before the event is scheduled to start. So those are some automated alerts. You're going to see those show up as well. So let's just jump on and move on. When we go into the deeper training, which is coming up right after this slide, we're going to be talking about muting. Sometimes you might need to mute an event in case there's just too much stuff going on and you don't want to see it anymore. 2 ways that you can mute. On the left side, we show the event post inside the stream or on somebody's profile, for example. And you choose the upper right area with where the circle is and pull down to where it says mute post. This is just like muting any other post. This is muting an event post. On the upper right area, when you see the drop down in the notifications panel, we also have the ability to use that drop down and choose mute post from there. So those are a couple different ways you can mute an event post. Now, the goodies. This is what we determined based on all of our research. So number 1, when you RSVP with a yes or a maybe to an event, you will receive notifications when comments are left on the event page. So if you're going to say yes or maybe, realize you're going to get a bunch of, if a lot of people start commenting, you're going to get notifications. Number 2, when you RSVP with the same status, yes or maybe, you will receive notifications when the host makes changes to the event. But those changes are limited, and I'm giving this for the information for the hosts as well as those that are on the outside, meaning the audience. When the host makes a change to the date or the time or the location, or they add photos to the event, then you're going to get notifications if you've said yes or maybe. It does not include any edits that the host might make to the details text or the theme image or the title of the event. Okay, number 3. If you RSVP with a no, meaning you're not going to watch this event, you will not receive any notifications about the event after you submit your RSVP of a no. And in parentheses on the bottom, we mentioned that commenting will change this, and we'll emphasize the commenting aspect in a moment. So saying no is going to eliminate your notifications for the most part. Number 4, if you've RSVP no, you will not receive notifications even if you're plus mentioned, because what we tried to do is figure out what are all the different things that might make a difference for the notifications. So we played as best we could with all the different options. So if someone plus mentions you in a comment on the event page, you still will not receive that notification because you said no, you don't want to go to that event. Unless, on the bottom there, unless you add a comment after saying no, then you will receive future notifications. So think of it this way. When you comment on the event, you've opened up the permissions, in essence, for that event to start sending you notifications. Number 5, if you do not RSVP at all, meaning you just ignore the thing, notifications of activity on that event will be received, or in parentheses, maybe not. Okay, so we ran into some inconsistent results. I think the majority of the time we were saying yes, you will get notifications because you just didn't RSVP. But for some of us in the testing group, they weren't getting notifications. So that's why we say there were some conflicting theories on this. Number 6, if you comment on an event, you will receive notifications no matter whether you have RSVP'd with a yes, no, or maybe, or didn't respond. So again, just a reminder, commenting opens up the notifications. Think of it that way.
Ronnie, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Please.
Could you explain RSVP just real quickly?
If you are responding with a yes, maybe, no, those choices are what are considered to be RSVPing. It's just a term, I don't remember, it's in French, I don't know what that stands for anymore. But it's basically you've been invited and you can say, yes, I'd like to go, or no, I don't want to go, or maybe I will attend. That's what RSVPing is doing.
RSVP is répondez-vous s'il vous plaît, en français.
Merci. Okay.
De rien.
Number 7, only one invitation per event will be received. Now this is good news for most of us. No matter how many times an individual, meaning you, are invited, no matter how many different people invite that same individual, you will only receive one invitation. That's why we're saying yay, because if 5 or 6 other people decide this is an event that they want us to be part of and they invite us, we don't really need that many more invitations. One's enough. Okay, so, and that's using what we call the invite more button to do the invitations, and we'll just move on. Number 8, muting. Muting is something we talked about or showed you a little earlier. When you mute an event, it will prevent you from receiving any subsequent notifications. So in essence, muting turns it all off, even when you've been plus mentioned. Now in parentheses on the bottom, this does not apply if someone shares the event with you, because that's a post. So if someone's inviting you in essence in another method without using the invite more button, then basically they're making a new post, it has a new URL, and muting the other post is not going to affect this one. So that's why we emphasize some of the little details that you might run into. Now, if you're a host of the Hangout on Air, we want to make sure that you're aware of the best way to invite people to come to these things. Even though the majority of the time we're telling you how to control what you see in the notifications, if you're the host, you do want people to know about it. So If you're setting up a scheduled Hangout on Air event or a regular event, and you're going to stick the Hangout on Air in it, you got a couple things you want to do. Where the big number 1 and number 2 are, you've got an audience invitation area. Number 1, you want to make sure you invite the public if it's supposed to be a public event. And this all has to happen during the initial posting of the event. You also want to invite in any community addresses that you have permission to do. Like if you own the community, or you're a moderator, or you have already received permission from the owner or moderator of the community to invite that community into shows, then go ahead, add them. But you've got to add them if you want to do it efficiently. You've got to add them during the very first posting of the event. And you'll find if you scroll down to the very bottom of the list of the audience, below your normal circling area, you will see the addresses of communities that you are part of so that you can add them to the audience, and then you click share. Only the very first time do you have those options to do that efficiently. Then the next thing, after I would do that, I then come back, and you'll note in the upper right where the big number 1 is, that's where that invite more button is that's visible on your event. I click on the invite more, number 1, and then I go to number 2, and I start typing in the names of circles of people that I've curated. I've noticed that certain people like to come to certain events with certain topics, so I've built circles that include them so that I can invite them specifically to that event. I do that after I invite the public and after I invite the community. So a second or third invitation is when I start bringing these people in. And then number 3, I click the invite button. Now, inviting in this sense is not bringing you into the film strip. It is actually inviting you to be a viewer of the event. So that's our training. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to now open it up to comments that others in the film strip right here are wanting to bring in, or if there are any particular comments that the people in the film strip would like to mention about how they've now changed some of the techniques that they used to do based on this information, that would be great. So anybody care to start down there, or should I call on you? Susan.
There we go. Everything that you shared, I think that we have to remember, even some people get confused between when you're in Google Plus and see notifications, when you're in Gmail and see notifications, whether you have the desktop application. These same rules apply across the board. It's just a different little venue or little sidebar snippet to show you, but it's still talking to the same account and the same database and all the same tagging and yes and no permission. So know that whichever venue, even on your phone, it's going to affect it across the board. So that was my only thing I wanted to remind people.
Now I do note that when we were doing this testing, we were all sort of surprised as the way, because many of us, because we're so involved with Hangouts on Air, everyone here, by the way, is part of the Hangout Mastery group, which is a training environment that I run, and we've got this desire to make the best out of what we've got with the tools. And so as a result, sometimes we see a whole lot of notifications. And for us, we wanted to try to figure out, as a host, am I bugging people when I accidentally invite them twice? And the answer is no, because you can't. And that was something we had to test to verify. So, for example, if you do have certain curated circles and you're inviting them, you don't have to be quite as careful trying to make sure that this person isn't in circle version 1 and circle version 2, and are they going to get 2 invites? They won't. They will only get 1 invitation when you use the invite more button. So that was, I think, very helpful for us to learn, and hopefully that helps you out there. Another thing that I think that we've learned, and I'd love for others in the film strip to expound upon that, is what no means. You want to talk about it?
There is some confusion. People feel like if they say no, they might be offending somebody. But and it depends as a host on how you handle your no's. If you get the same person that says no 4 times in a row to your weekly event, don't assume that they don't actually want to never get any more of them. I used to use that as a trigger, and I'd say, well, they responded no, so I took them out of the circle that I was inviting. And as a matter of fact, that's not the case. They maybe were saying no because they were going to be out of town. They didn't want the notifications. So don't let that be a trigger to you as an HOA host to remove people from your circles. It's probably worth a private message or some sort of a conversation with them. So no just means that I don't want to get any more notifications about this event because it's kind of off my radar for the rest of the week, or until it happens.
Right. So we've also learned, remember, that commenting opens up those notifications. It turns them right back on again. So if you've said no and then you decided you're going to go back and check later and you add a comment to that event, it's now going to turn back those event notifications. They're going to turn them right back on.
Right. Now this is different, though, than commenting directly on the YouTube video link. That is totally different.
Yeah, we're focused.
Oh, I know. So people were asking, it's like, that's different. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about notifications in Google Plus and how it all comes into everything. But I love, Debbie, what you said, because a lot of people, they get little hurt feelings. Guys, don't take it personally. I mean, if you want to be kind to the person who invited you, but you aren't going to watch it, you don't want to be part of the stream, share it first.
Right.
And then say no, before you respond, because what a polite and nice thing to know, because then they know, yes, she or he is supporting me, they appreciated it, they obviously still are finding interest and value in what I do, yet they don't want to be a part of this one event or the notifications. So that's
I'll expand on that. Just I do that exact thing. There's a certain hangout that happens every single week at the same time. I can't make it. I know I can't. It interferes with my work. I have something else. I have a meeting. So I always hit no and share it immediately to what I call my DVR community, so I can go back and watch it because I do have interest in it. But there are some that I get an invite that I really, truly do not want to be a part of too, so I say to no to those too. I'm just saying, I'm just being real, but.
And I think that Michael's approach, having a DVR community that he can share it to so he can find it, my way of doing that is a little different, but I really like your approach, Michael. My way is to say yes or maybe, and then that goes on in my Google Calendar. And then on the weekend, when I'm watching replays, I go back to my Google Calendar and I just review those days, and I was like, oh yeah, that was Susan's hangout that I wanted to see, but it was at the same time I was doing something else, and then I watch that in replay, and it's right there on the calendar, and I'm just reminded of what happened during the week that I couldn't get to in real time. So that's in my calendar. Michael uses a DVR community. 2 ways so that you can find those and get back to them when you want them.
And when he's saying DVR community, just so you know, that's just a private community he's made where he sticks in videos that he wants to go back and watch at another time.
Like a real DVR, get it?
Exactly. That's why I called it that.
Well, and
I can make categories for certain things. If it's something that's going to interest me about because they're teaching something, or if it's something that's just, hey, this is a cool topic, or what, I can make categories and put it in there that way. So that's why I do it that way. But
that's pretty cool. That's a nice rewatch. I like that idea. Debbie, what you were saying about saying yes or maybe to get it on your calendar so you can go watch it later, combining a couple of the thoughts we all just learned about, you can say yes or maybe to get on your calendar, but you can also say mute. Because then it stays on your calendar, but you're not going to get all the comment streams and the photos and everything else posted to it.
That's right. Yeah, that mute is pretty powerful. If your objective is to keep your notifications, to a minimum, because notifications can be stressful for some of us. So muting is a good way to do that.
Hey, Ronnie, do you want to talk about ways to quickly communicate or do a little tickler for people for events if they have not RSVP'd at all yet but have been invited, or if they've said yes or maybe with images?
Sure, yeah. I was just about to get to that, but one of the things I forgot to do because of the hassle with getting over to this brand new event is we don't actually have a public reshare of this one. So if one of you could do that and bring that in the comment.
I did that.
Yeah, we do. I did it.
Yep.
I did it.
Have you added into the comment tracker?
It's there.
Yes, we did.
So we are bringing in the newer comments from.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to highlight
Ronnie,
one.
we are Ronnie's kids. We
Excellent.
got this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there notifications same for Hangouts launched from YouTube? And I think we addressed that. The answer is no. The notifications, what we're talking about, are tied to events that are Google Plus events. They are not. YouTube has this wonderful habit of giving us names that are the same as other places but mean different things. So when we start up a brand new Hangout on Air and we're only using YouTube, we're creating what's called a live event. But that event doesn't give you the same type of notifications. You don't have a place to RSVP. That's the key difference. You can't, in a YouTube live event, go somewhere and say, yes, I'd like to watch this, or no, or maybe. Those aren't options from within the YouTube live event area. So we're talking specifically about the events that are tied in Google Plus to videos that are called Hangouts on Air. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to bring up another comment.
Such irony.
Yeah. Terry's got a comment or question. Such great information, news about invitations not being received more than once. Yes, it was a nice thing that we discovered and learned once we did that, and that way you don't have to. Again, like I said before, you don't have to be so careful about making sure that that one person isn't in multiple circles that might have been invited, because they'll only get one invitation. And we will, Susan, we will get to your comment, but let me bring up some of the other ones that are going on live here. From Held in Evidence, the Bobby Sherman Miracle reports. Sorry I showed up late. I'd like to know if I can go back to my editing for the event and invite a particular community which I joined after I created the event and already did my invites. The answer is yes, but it won't be as impactful. You can add in communities after your initial posting. However, it doesn't automatically stick that event into the community. It also doesn't automatically add a little calendar area on the right side of the community, which it normally would if you did it during the initial posting. So the community is a little bit more forgiving. It's not quite as good when you invite after the first post. But the public is not. You've always, if you're going to use a public event, you've got to invite the public during the initial posting. Otherwise, you got to start over. Okay, and then Marilyn's got a comment. That's huge to know that people will only receive one invitation. Yes. So this is from the side of being a host, and there's another part of being a host that we'd like to draw to your attention when you are wanting people to know, and I did it on this particular, well, actually not this event, the one that was there before we started this one. I invited people to come see it, and we added pictures. We added photos. I added some photos a couple days before the event and the day of the event. And what this does is for the people that said yes or maybe, it gives them an alert. And that alert helps them remember, oh yeah, I am going to watch that, and I want to make sure that I remember it. That's one of the main reasons why, as a host, you might consider adding photos into the event before you're going live. It's a reminder, especially in this case, I had actually had 2 weeks before we were going to go live with this, and I wanted it to not drop off everybody's radar. Okay, and Susan, do you want to bring up some other ideas or comments that you were saying outside of actually the people that say yes or maybe, what you do to remind people?
Well, other than that, the photo idea is a great one. And then reshares, of course. That's a good reminder. But I use a tool, and can I go into Circle-o-Scope briefly or no?
Briefly.
Nah, briefly. No. Okay, there's a tool that is out there called Circle-o-Scope. Okay, great. I can gather the people who have said yes, no, or maybe to events and make a circle out of them, and then I can send them a post that reminds them. So creating circles from people that participate in events or similar events, and sending them a post that might trigger their interest specifically. And I find that that's actually a very valuable tool in getting the event out to a different audience.
And do you do that as a private post? Do you public and check the box that says also send them?
It depends as the event. I don't abuse that send as an email thing. It's very, very rare. I have one circle that I will send emails to, but I don't like to do that, especially if I'm saying all circles or more than a couple of big circles. I just think it's rude to cram people's inbox.
In this case, you've already curated a list of people that you believe or understand are interested in the event. Are you alerting them, or are you just sending them a private post? What are you doing?
I would send them a private post and email that, depending on the size of that circle. Usually they're under 200 people. And so I don't mind sending an email out because we're close. And they would prefer to get that kind of reminder from me so I don't miss them.
Okay, so let's talk about another thing. As a host, what we're doing, and this is important for you as a viewer as well. Many times when people are hosting these events, down at the bottom of their details area, they will say, if you have replied in a comment or you've said yes or maybe to this event, you're going to get added to my circle of people interested in these types of shows. And you can always contact the host and tell them you don't want to be in that circle if that's the case. So normal, and this is not a written rule, it's just a lot of people are doing that. So that's why you might start to see more and more invitations to events if you start going to events, because people are taking the fact that you interacted with it in one way, shape, or form as a sign that you are interested in that topic or those types of events for the ones moving forward. Let me bring up what Heather's got highlighted. This is from Monica. The person who is invited via invite more, is it possible she or he can get into the film strip? Let's explain what invite more does and then what the film strip is. When you are using the invite more button, you're inviting someone as a viewer of the event. They're in the audience. They are not in the film strip from that invitation. In the film strip means someone from the host within the Hangout on Air has the option to invite people to come into the show. So the real question I think that Monica was asking is, can they be both? And the answer is yes. You can invite someone to be a viewer and invite them into the film strip, but it's a separate action. The invite more button part of the event is only to get people to come as a viewer or an audience member of that particular event. Now I'm going to move on to, Debbie's got one here from Rachel. Is there a way to create a Hangout on Air inside a community? Definitely. You can certainly do a Hangout on Air inside a community. The way that it works isn't quite the same as events. One of the ways that it works, and if others in the film strip want to give their perspective on that briefly, one idea is you can go to YouTube and the YouTube Live Event Manager and then start up a Hangout on Air from there. You can take that video of that Hangout on Air and place that posted inside of a community, and then you've got the ability for people in that community to be watching that particular show. Is there other ideas you guys want to share?
The way I do it is I go into my community, and as a moderator of that community, I think that, I'm not even sure, it might even be, you might be able to do it just as a member of the community, but there's always an event category in a community. You click on that, and it will show you all the upcoming events, all the past events, and there's a blue button that says create an event. And when you create the event there, that event then resides in the event category of your community, and the members of that community are automatically invited.
Right, but that's the same thing as if you did the event from outside the community and you invited in the community address circle. It ends up being with the same results.
Yeah,
There's
and
more,
it's
more than one way to
an
speak
event,
it.
not a shoe, by the way.
Yes,
an
it's a
event,
traditional event.
It's a traditional
We actually did a
event.
whole 8-week study on that too, doing a community-centered HOA, which you can find in user to user. I mean, we have that over there if anybody wants to see that process. If you want to do it that way, if you want to do it just with your community.
Now, just to sort of sum up that part, there are some concerns when you're doing a show just for a community. In essence, you're trying to keep it limited to that community. You're going to have to be able to control who else sees it, if that's the type of control that you need. And also, when you do that, you may end up with what's called a non-public, or technically a private event. And if it's a private event, things like the comment tracker tool won't work. So they only work with the public events. So oddly enough, I do a mix. When I'm doing my Hangouts for my members that are members only in the community, I actually do a public event, and inside of it I stick in a private Hangout on Air. So that's another angle. Okay. So lots of different ways to do this kind of stuff. Let's bring up another comment Heather's got highlighted from, is it Tigran? Sorry, I apologize if I don't pronounce it right. What would be that specific setup in Hangouts to show your custom fancy name like that one in green? Okay. This fancy name that I've got down here is, I was going to actually be really pushing this, but because this Hangout on Air didn't work out quite as well as I wanted it to at the beginning, I'm just sort of a little bit concerned. This is called a lower third. And the lower third is part of the toolbox, the Hangout toolbox. And what I did is I made a custom graphic and added that in. And this right here, allabout.hangouts.com, is a website that I've created, and I hope people that are new to Hangouts would go there. And you can get some free and paid learning materials to help you understand and move from Hangout basics to total Hangout confidence, is what we like to say. And by the way, this show is going on right now, live in the beginning of February. The middle of February, we're going to be ending our launch special pricing. So if you are interested, you want to check out allabout.hangouts.com as soon as you can, because we are going to be changing the price to our normal price, which is still pretty good, but the launch special will be ending the very middle, or the 16th of February. So bring up another comment Heather's got from Elaine. Do the pictures added to the event go out to the public? Great question. I'll cover that in a second. I thought they did, not simply showing up for the people who have said yes or maybe. So the answer is yes, they do, if it's a public event. So if your event's public and you add a picture into it, it not only alerts people that are in the event with a yes or a maybe or have commented, but it also ends up with that picture in and of itself just as its own separate post in the public stream, and during that posting of that picture, it has a link back to the event. So if it's an intriguing photo, that's another way out there in the public stream that people could click on that link and it'll take them right into the event page, and then from there they can choose yes, no, or maybe. Heather's got another one from Michael. Does the invite more disable the comment stream for the event for that viewer? Invite more doesn't. I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'm going to say no. The inviting more simply lets more people come, or invites more people to come to that particular event. It has nothing to do with the comment stream. Unless someone else is understanding that question differently, then you can. Okay, so I think we got it. Another question. Oh, that's the same question. Oh, back. There we go. An event host can designate others can add photos to the event. Yes. If this is on and someone adds a picture or photo before broadcast, will it be seen by the public? Let me finish that part of the sentence, the question, then I'll come back to the rest of it. I think it was all related. We as hosts of a Hangout on Air event or an event have the option to let people or not let people add photos to the event. By default, the SHU, or the Scheduled Hangout on Air event, has the ability for others to not, or the ability is turned off to add a photo for other people. With a traditional event, it's on for other people. So you, as the host, want to check to see what settings you want. And the answer, the quick answer for the question was, if a photo is added by anybody in the event, it will send out notifications for those that say yes or maybe or have commented, and it will, if it's a public event, put that photo out into the public realm, from my experience. Is there anyone else down there in the film strip like to comment on that?
Yes.
Okay.
It opens, be very careful when you open that up to the public to permit that. Because sometimes when you do, and you have a big event or a popular event or one that gets shared a lot, people will piggyback on that. It's like riding a hashtag. And they will piggyback on it and abuse that privilege by putting in their image, or they might think it's related, so it slips by. But what you don't always check is the image description. When you click on it, and it has all their links and all their promos stuff, and it's like a commercial that they've shoved into your event. So be very careful when you permit that, and remember, if you do permit it, go back after the event and turn it off.
Right. Great. I was just going to do that. Just let me emphasize that last part. When your event is over and you're moved on to other events, you might have sort of forgotten about it, but these events last. They're still out there, and they will continue to allow people to find them, and they can come and watch the show if it was part of that event. And if you have left the ability for people to add photos, it could be something you did 2 years ago, and someone might add in a photo that is somewhat inappropriate. So as the host, I would agree with what Susan's saying, is when you're done with the event and you're done with other people maybe adding, let's say you asked people to add photos for some reason, because that makes sense for your event, then when you're ready, go ahead and turn off that ability for others to add it. You've always got that option to go back to your prior events and disable the ability for others to add comments. And I believe that I'm bringing that comment right back up. Will it be seen by public, invited to the event, or just yes and maybes? And I believe, again, it is seen by anyone and everyone in the public, as well as the yes and the maybes and the commenters, if it is a public event. I'm going to bring up what Debbie's got highlighted from Hallie. All About Hangout, okay, thanks. All About Hangouts is great for anyone who's just starting. It's great for me. Thank you. And thank you. I appreciate the testimonial there. Great. And then is there another, what I had in my notes here, I think we've covered most of this. I think, does anyone here in the film share want to emphasize the fact that you're saying no and it doesn't mean no? I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but...
we did, because it's got such a psychological impact. It feels like you're not being nice, or even as a host and you see no's and you're like, well, fine, then I won't talk to them anymore. You know, that's not what no means. People are just simply trying to manage their own calendars, I think, and, you know, don't take no as a slap.
Right.
And if you really have a problem because you're consistently invited to something that you have no interest in and you get annoyed, take it private and ask the host to please remove you from those circles. Don't put it public. Don't put it on the event. Ooh, quit bugging me about this. Be a big person, put on your big boy pants, and just contact them directly and solve your little differences or your little boo-boo feelings or anything. And if you have boo-boo feelings, go ask them privately. Good grief, guys. Open the conversation.
And one thing, too, I share with a circle. When I do a game show every Friday night, okay? And I share with a circle, okay? When I share with that circle, people in turn share with their circles. And what happens is I had this one person that was saying no every single time. I tried to reach out to that person and say, look, you say no every single time. Do you not want to get it and all this kind of stuff? And basically what was happening was that share of a share, I had no control over that no and what to do. I actually couldn't reach out because she wasn't in one of my circles. So at first I couldn't even reach out. I had to find out who had this person in a circle, tell them, say, look, before you just go and reshare with a circle, make sure they want to go to this event. I mean, that's the only thing I want to add to that, because that's key too.
Right.
Well, it's pretty hard to know. When I share something, I don't know if everybody's going to be as excited about game show night as me. If you get an invitation and you don't want to go, well, an invitation or a share, those are two different things. But
right.
You know what? Hitting the delete key is really easy. So, you know, because it's hard for me to know. If I share it with a circle of friends that I just think are fun and are around on Friday nights, I can't tell if one of them has...
Oh, right, and I guess my only point, Debbie, is the fact I couldn't take her off the list because they kept inviting her. I can't take her off.
Right.
So Debbie, when you
That's my only point. That's my only point.
When you're saying hitting the delete key, what do you mean, Debbie?
Well, when I get an invitation to an event that I don't want to go to, I hit the delete key. I just move on. I don't, you know, I mean, I don't understand why people get upset if they get invited.
I'm taking you literally. What do you mean hit the delete key? Are you deleting?
Oh, I'm hitting the little X button in the upper right-hand corner in the notifications that says, you know, all right, move on to the next.
So in notifications, you're basically ignoring that one or closing that one.
Yeah, just close it, you know.
I'm just trying to clarify for those watching.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm deleting it by hitting the X, the little X key, the little X
Which means, as we know now, you will still get notifications about that event if you have been...
Right, because you didn't RSVP.
You didn't RSVP. Right. And our events little window from the Google Plus menu off to the left for events gets loaded up with everything we've been invited to, unless we have responded.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So. All right, let me bring up a comment. We're getting close to the end of our time frame here. No does not mean no. Only in Google Hangouts on airs, or technically the events areas. Yes, that's correct. In fact, when I first started doing these things, I actually was a little concerned about saying no, and now I'm less concerned about saying no, but I still do keep a lot of events going on in my stream just so that I'm able to see what people are doing, and basically if people are struggling, I try to reach out privately to them and ask them if they want some assistance with Hangouts on Air kind of thing, because that's what I do for a living. And so that's one of the reasons why I have so many events that I can show on event alerts and notifications, because I don't say no that often. But if you find as a host that someone consistently says no, you could always just reach out to them privately and ask them, mention, I've noticed you've been saying no a lot to these events. Would you like to be removed from my invitation circles? And let them respond. And just like Michael was saying here, they may be invited by someone else and you've never had them in your invitation circles. So there are some situations where you can't stop inviting them because other people are doing the invitations on your behalf. Now you do have an option, though I don't suggest it, you do have an option to, on your events, not allow other people to invite others. You know, you can make it just your ability to invite, and that's it. I suggest, though, that because this is generally done in a public realm and we want people to network and spread the word of what we're doing, then it's a good idea to allow others to invite people to the event using that invite more button. All right, any summary words? Heather's got one.
I just wanted to say that there are so many different things that we found out about this, and our biggest deal was to try and inform everybody out there with what we found out. And the bottom line was, if you don't respond, you're going to get a floodgate of information. If you do respond, yes, no, or maybe, where that's going to go, and what's going to happen if you comment. So these are all just ways that you can use it. We've each adapted our own different ways of how we use that information in our experiences with notifications, but it's all up to you how you use that information. So hopefully you found something here that was valuable to you, and hopefully you will go check out allaboutHangouts.com. I had to do it.
Thank you, Heather. And then one last thing to bring up. When we're talking about these events, the reason why we can't say necessarily definitively is because Google doesn't tell us. We have to do the testing on our own, and we tried our best not to bug a lot of people while we're doing the testing, but some of it we have to do publicly in order to verify it works a certain way publicly, because it will work differently if you're dealing with a private event. So just realize the information we're giving you now is the best that we understand it at this point in time, and by tomorrow it may change. This is the way this works with Google and Google+, and this is just part of the ride that we are part of. So we hope you've enjoyed this information today. I apologize for the first version of our event not working quite right, and hopefully you're able to see this one. If you didn't see it live, we hope that you get to it after the fact. And thank you everybody down here in the film strip participating not only in the show today, but also in helping test and make sure that the things we're telling you are as accurate as we understand it. And so we're going to say goodbye for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Bye now.